So Savage Worlds debuted in 2003, and we moved forward from that edition to the current edition, which came out in 2019. The current edition is called Savage Worlds Adventure Edition, or Suede. And you're going to hear it referred to a lot as Suede throughout my video series. It is produced by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. You're also going to hear that shortened down to PEG or PEG Inc., but it's almost always PEG. So you look at the longevity of that, and there's multiple editions in there, but you have to understand that while it's 20 years of adventures, of settings, they are all still 99% compatible with the current edition. So anything that came out in 2003, 2004, you're still going to be able to pick it up and play it using Suede with very few changes, and almost all of those changes have already been done for you by Pinnacle or whatever the publisher controls that title. As far as the book goes, you're looking at about 208 pages hardcover, and the PDF is going to set you back $10. The hardcover plus PDF sets you back $40. And if you want to get really wild, there is a leather edition version that is signed by everyone who works at Pinnacle, and that runs you about $100. And yeah, you do get the PDF for that. So with all that said, there's a couple of things you should know about Savage Worlds right off the bat. It is a universal system. It is not going to tell you how to play fantasy. It's not going to tell you how to play science fiction. It's not going to tell you how to play historical or modern. It's not going to tell you how to play anything. It's going to simply give you what is a 208-page toolkit to do things the way you want to do it. You want to use magic? Fine, every character can use magic. There's no limitations to it. The second thing plays off of that is if you were coming to Savage Worlds from Dungeons & Dragons, from Pathfinder, or any other games like that where you're strictly handheld, there are character classes, there are defined roles, it may be a little off-putting at first, but just you got to take a step back and relax a little bit and understand that now you're being asked to tell the game what you want to do instead of the game telling you what you're going to do. So with those things out of the way, let's get started taking a look at the book itself. So the book's divided into 7 chapters, and the 2 prefaces is really just, here's the history of Savage Worlds, and here's where we came from, where we're going. It's written by the designer Shane Hensley, and it's a really good read. It's fun if you're not really used to Savage Worlds or where it's been or where it's going. The next section is the standard, here's what a role-playing game is, it's how you play a role-playing game. It really does direct you to find actual plays online or podcasts. It's 2022, no one's an idiot like that. No one's going to want to read a book about how to play a role-playing game. You're never going to be able to read a book about playing a role-playing game. It's better to watch it in action. The last part of that section is about the things you're going to need to run Savage Worlds. Whereas yes, it requires dice, and there's a few more things that you're going to need to run Savage Worlds. They're not expensive, and everyone has them in their house, and almost guaranteed everyone has them in their house. But yeah, you're going to need those. And then we kick into chapter 1. And chapter 1 is character creation, and that is where the training wheels come off immediately. You quickly realize that you're going to be able to do whatever you want with the system. You're going to have some choices to make. Again, you need to check with the game master, because that's going to be the controlling factor on what your setting is and how that goes down. So by default, there are 10 races presented in the book. There's 2 bonus races. Those 2 bonus races are designed to be an example of how to create a race, which is also included in the book. It goes through a few pages of how you can make your own race for whatever settings you want. Those default races are going to be your standard array that can be used in pretty much any genre. You're looking at humans, androids, avians, bird people, Aquarians, merfolk, dwarves, elves, half-elves, the half-folk, which are, gnomes or halflings, the Rakashans, cat people, and the Saurians, which are your lizard people. The 2 bonus races are the Celestial and the Guardian, and those are, again, for a very specific campaign, used as examples, but they are presented in the book, and so you do have essentially 12 races that you can choose from if allowed by the game master. The big part of the character creation is, like I said, there's no classes to tell you what to do or what you can do or what your limiters are or what to expect. You're not planning out your levels. Now you do advance, and we're going to cover all of this in later videos on actually creating characters. But you have to understand that you're not going to be handheld along the way. Every choice you ever make is going to be completely up to you. So we do this through hindrances and edges. mostly, as well as the attributes. Now, hindrances are the little things that are negatively impact your character, but they provide great role play. There's about 57 hindrances. There are 135 edges. Edges are like feats, and those edges are separated into 8 different categories. And once you start building those coupled to your actual traits, which are your attributes and your skills, you'll really see where the characters shine, and you're going to start finding new ways of doing things that you may not have ever expected or been able to do in whatever game you're coming to Savage Worlds from. All right, on to chapter 2. And this is gear, and this is everything you could need or want. And if you don't see it in there, you're going to quickly understand how it works. An AK-47 and a SCAR 17 have the same mechanical functions. There's no need arguing about muzzle velocity or anything else. It doesn't matter in Savage Worlds. The moniker is fast, furious, fun, anytime, anywhere, any place. And it sticks true to that. You're going to find ancient / medieval, which is your fantasy stuff. You're going to find modern gear. You're going to find futuristic gear. And of course, because of how Savage Worlds works, you can mix those through your genre mashups or what have you. It covers armor, weapons, missiles, vehicles. Everything is in there based on all those time periods. Chapter 3, that's the rules itself. That's where the real meat and potato of the book gets started. And this tells you how to play the game, how combat works, how healing works. And then they have a section that's called situational rules. And those are the little things that you will get used to the better you become at the game. And they're super easy to learn. And once you do learn them, you're going to miss them when you do not play Savage Worlds any longer. Okay, so moving to chapter 4, this is the adventure toolkit. This is mostly for the GM, but any smart player is going to want to understand how hazards work, how the chase rules work, social conflicts, fear, any number of the things that aren't covered under normal rules and are treated very special by Savage Worlds. They're the ones that don't come up very often. But the biggest one in this chapter are the setting rules. Now, setting rules are neat. They're like your levers and your dials that a GM can use to really tighten down the setting. If you don't like how combat wounding works in Savage Worlds and you want to say, hey, I think bullets should be even more lethal, then you flip a lever called gritty damage, and now everyone's in trouble, NPCs and PCs alike. So that's the big strength of setting rules. Next up is chapter 5, which are powers. That is Savage Worlds' fancy way of saying magic. There's only 5 core arcane backgrounds, and we're going to cover a lot of this in detail as we get into later videos. And when you choose a background, it helps you align yourself to the tropes and the aesthetics of what that casting background is. There's also 56 powers. It doesn't sound like a lot when you come from D&D, but you have to understand that in Savage World, a bolt, which is essentially a magic missile, but it's not a magic missile. That bolt can be anything that you think of, because Savage World uses a thing called trappings. And that's where it stands apart. It's incumbent upon you to describe how your spells function and how they work. And it really is limited only by your imagination. There's no mechanical advantage to doing anything crazy, but it's how you show off, and it's how you get the flash and the snazz of being a spellcaster and using powers in Savage Worlds. So chapter 6, this is the bestiary. This is the one that has 37 monsters. It doesn't sound like a lot, but again, if you understand the monsters and you take a look at how they function, take a look at their abilities, there's a place in there for how to build monsters. Savage Worlds even walks you through in this book on, hey, don't sweat it. You don't build a monster, or you don't build an NPC the way you build a wild card, which is what a player character is. It takes about 10 minutes to actually build a great monster from scratch using Savage Worlds as presented in the core rulebook. All right, the last chapter is chapter 7, and this is the game mastering chapter. There's not really much mechanical in here. It really just walks you through the different genres that you might want to run and gives you some clues and ideas of how best to run those. This is a good section for players to read too, because if you're not really sure how to play horror or how to run horror, or what to expect, you can read that section. Same thing for science fiction or fantasy. There are folks who've never played some of these more common genres, and so it's a great section for that. But really, that's what this section is about helping you make the game better for everyone at the table.